So the title of this show is No Time at All. That's for two reasons. I usually choose to title the show based on an excerpt of one of the pieces in the show. Not necessarily a favorite, but one that really stands out to me as one that encompasses all of the work that's in the show and can kind of tie together the body of work. No Time at All comes from the piece. I noticed the scar on the back of my hand, realizing that a year felt like no time at all. And most of this work was done after the COVID-19 pandemic started, and time meant nothing. It whizzed by like a snap of the finger, and it also felt like every day dragged on and on and on. And my interactions with people changed. I was incredibly isolated for a long time, and I kind of just needed other indications of time passing, because so much was changing so quickly all the time. And so No Time at All really just felt like the right name, the right idea to encompass all of these pieces and all of the communication and relationships and conversations that I've had, or thoughts that I've had observing other people during this time. I started working with neon because I was struggling to communicate exactly what I wanted visually in my visual art practice. And working with signage, working with literally a light that is meant to be commanding, and playing with that felt like the most direct form of communication possible. My first piece of neon was Please Be Sad. I haven't been doing neon for an incredibly long time, but I have been making art for a very long time. And neon seemed to work as the right medium. Like, it finally felt like the correct medium for my work, because it has always been about communication and experiences and relationships with other people, whether it's romantic or friendship or familial. And being able to communicate with people like that and play on the history of signage with what I like to call suggested commands really worked. And exploring that and exploring the subtleties in language through neon in that way was really exciting. You can really change the way something's read based on the size, the color, the font that you're using, whether it's handwriting or, a chosen font that has its other indications. It can be really exciting and really challenging. And so I love exploring language with work, especially things I think about that I want to say to other people, or things I've heard of from other people. The work has shifted significantly in the past couple of years as I've started to really turn inward. And though the work is still about how I feel about other people and communication, it has to have taken on a different form, just because that communication changed, those experiences changed, and I've changed a lot. And so the work is now turning inward in that way. I like to think of a concept and then form a piece out of it. I do pull a lot from my writing, and even if it's not, journal style writing, I do take notes, just write down my thoughts on a regular basis, whether it's a couple words or, if I could see a piece in my mind, if it comes to me, I'll just write that down. And I'm always exploring new ways to make work out of everyday experiences. So I can't really say what direction the work will continue to take, but I'm really excited that I'm just constantly trying to make work about what's happening right now and what I'm inspired by in the moment. I like to write all the time. I don't think of myself as a writer, but I do think of myself as someone with a strong art practice, and keeping a sketchbook or a notebook available is really important to me. Sometimes taking notes is more in the form of drawings and diagrams. Past couple years it's been writing, just non-stop writing. And pieces can form in so many different ways based on the writing, based on those thoughts. It doesn't have to be in neon, it doesn't have to be in text, but it definitely helps me take a step back and also take some time away from where I was in that moment, look back, revisit my thoughts, my feelings, those experiences, and see what can be pulled from there. I'll write for a year and then revisit work and see, this was really important to me. Like, I've been reading this paragraph over and over and over again. There's something there. Can there be something there? Does something need to be edited? And I do take a lot of time editing. It takes a long time from original inception to final piece. choosing the right excerpt is really important, what can be taken without the context. Though in this situation, I do really want to share that context and make it more vulnerable, make myself more vulnerable, and also hopefully make the work more understood. There are edits that I make. I try not to make adjustments to the text itself from the original writing, but there are some adjustments that happen. For example, the biggest edit I've made to date is in the piece, They Didn't Care for Me at All, But I Don't Mind. I was originally writing about someone I knew, and it was, she didn't care for me at all, but I don't mind. She didn't matter. The she did not matter to my feeling and experience in that moment, and therefore I changed it. That was a couple years ago. It wasn't integral to understanding my feelings at that time and that relationship. So that got changed. So there will be small adjustments like that every now and again, but for the most part, I keep it pretty pure. When I first started with neon, I definitely played with the exploration of color when I was doing a series of please pieces. I was really making a lot of those pieces mostly to practice, just the same word please over and over again, because I needed to practice my technique in bending. I was so new at it. But also exploring the different colors was really fascinating because I got to see how everyone reacted so differently to a single word in a different color, and that being in the same font. So I really started to pick up on how the color can affect our interpretation. And with pieces, they're just excerpts of writing. They're just a small fragment of words compared to an entire thought that I've had. So making sure I give all the correct visual information to someone who's looking at a sign is incredibly important to me. I want to make sure that somebody can walk by, and if they choose to spend some time with a piece, they can start to pull out details of what could be behind it based on the font and the size and the color. If they choose to explore it further by checking out a title or some background information about the work, then they could get a full story, but I definitely strive to give as much visual information as possible. I think something that I find most interesting about how people approach my work is how they come with their own baggage and their own expectation of what they're seeing. Some people do look at it as a selfie opportunity, maybe a strange one depending on the piece they're approaching, but some people do superficially see it as such. Others take the time and work with it. I think everyone approaches it differently. One of my favorite things to do is just hide out when a show is happening and just eavesdrop. Just to really see how things change. I have definitely noticed, this is a very generalized observation, but I have definitely noticed a gender difference between the approach to the neon. I have noticed that it seems to be almost put down in a way by a lot of older men. And I definitely don't compare my work at all to like Tracy Emmons or lots of other women that work with neon, but there definitely is this way of approaching women's words and kind of not taking them seriously or not giving any weight or depth to them. And I have noticed that when some women interact with my work, they do just take it on a little more. And I do think it's really important for women or people who do not have certain privileges to be able to use their voice in different ways. And it is really important for me to push my work in this loud, very bright way. I'm making my words seen. I'm plastering them on a wall. I don't go too large in scale, but they are bright lights, and I want them to be seen and heard and listened to. And I think a lot of women in the past have felt that way. You're not really taken seriously in what you say unless you're screaming it. And this is my way of screaming. Being part of She Bends and being able to acknowledge on a national and international scale the quality of craftsmanship that women can bring to neon is exciting, and it's also new. It is revolutionary. So many women have been excluded from this craft. Anyone who is not a white man has been excluded from this craft. It's been very difficult to access it if you're different in any other way or seemingly different in any way. And yeah, this is a huge fuck you to everyone that said we couldn't do it. I mean, part of the reason that I continued with neon is because so many people told me that I wouldn't be able to, purely based on the fact that I am a woman. women are bad at this. That's something I heard a lot. Everyone's really bad at it. It's a really difficult craft. But, you know, there's grace that's offered to some people and expected perfection from others. And that is what pushed me to be really good at this craft. I don't believe you have to be an expert craftsperson in order to be an artist, but I wanted to be. And that is really important to me. Being able to make whatever I want and not necessarily having to rely on somebody else to make something for me is important to my art practice. And I understand that everyone's always at a different place in their neon journey and in their art practice. And, you know, I wouldn't be anywhere if I didn't lean on other people for help on a regular basis. But knowing that I can make my work and I can be proud of it, both technically and conceptually, is really important to me. And that means a lot to me. You know, I'm constantly trying to do better. It is so challenging. There's so many different challenges, just depending on the different types of neon signs you're making. And so it is exciting to me to be good at it, or, you know, be good enough to make what I want. There's still a lot to learn. There's plenty of things that I don't do on a regular basis, whether commercially or for my art practice, and there's room for improvement there. And that's something I really like about neon, that there are constant challenges, constant puzzles to solve, and there's always something new to explore and get better at. Teaching has always been something I've loved doing. I have taught a lot. Most of my background is actually teaching photography and digital classes. But once I started getting it better at neon, teaching that just seemed to make the most sense. It doesn't really matter what I'm teaching. I love having a classroom full of people that are excited to learn something and excited to be bad at something. And the best part for me, it is a little selfish. Getting to see the excitement on people's face when they succeed after struggling is incredibly fulfilling. And I love that. I love seeing that look on their faces. And I get to do that with my college students, with my workshop students, with friends that are just asking a question and struggling with something. Teaching is really important to me. I do believe in, you know, taking pride and certain ownership of knowledge, and I also believe in being able to spread it. I really appreciate experiences like this. I think it started with Shebens. I really do give Shebens a lot of credit, but with experiences like gallery owners and galleries coming together and being more open to showing neon, to really get it out into the world and understand it as a medium. It can be approachable. It is delicate. It did take a lot of time to make. It is all still handmade, but it's beautiful, and anyone can own that or see it or live with it. I really appreciated being so welcomed into spaces as a fine art and, you know, welcoming the glass world into it.